Blog Talk Radio.
Knockout. Real conversations with real power players. Hey, welcome to Knockouts. This is your boy Big Mac over here at the Badass Closer. I'm real excited. Today is the very first episode of Knockouts, Conversations with Power Players. And let me tell you, I get to welcome my very first guest. This is a man who was a very early mentor for me. I consider him to be probably one of my closest friends. His name is John Davis. He's currently with Harlan Payment Systems. He's been a great friend to me. I love this guy. And if you want to talk about a real power player, this is a guy who over his career has brought in probably well over $50 million in business, has made millions of dollars in commissions. He has been a friend and a mentor to so many, I couldn't even count, and has inspired a lot of people. So I'm really excited about having him, and I'm really honored that he decided to and made the decision to come on and be my very first guest, and I really thank him. So let's see if we got John on the line. John, are you on the line? I think he's trying to connect now, so while we wait for him to get connected here, just to give you a quick overview of what the Knockout Show is going to be all about. We here on Knockouts, our whole purpose is to bring people who are at the top of their game to you to let you hear their story and maybe hopefully pick up some tips and some different advice on how they made it to the top, because we all know getting to the top of any industry is very difficult. And so these are interviews with people who can really help you if you listen to what they got to say. Let's see if John's connected with us yet. John, you connected? Not quite yet, so he should be connected in just a second, guys. Let me make sure that he is getting connected, and we'll be able to always have technical difficulties on the first one. If you ever do a show, just go ahead and plan for the technical difficulties on your very first show. So do we have John connected with us? John, are you there?
Can you hear me now? I'm here.
There he is. We found him. We thought we lost you.
No, I wasn't lost. I was just muted, which I'm sure there's a whole bunch of people out there listening that would love for that to continue. But
well,
I'm good.
That's a great thing about here in the studio, in our little studio here. We just mute everybody, right, and don't even know we did it. Well, listen, John. Hopefully you heard the intro. I want to thank you very much for taking the time to be on here as my very first guest. I love you, man. You've always been there for me and for so many others. So thanks so much.
Well, man, I'm totally jacked, and I'm grateful, honored to be here in any way I can help, any way that I can inspire other people. That's what I want to do.
Absolutely. Well, listen, with this show, I always want to ask this question first in case people have to jump off early. It's all about value and trying to give value to people who are trying to come up and really get going. So let me ask you this. What is the number one piece of sales advice that you would pass along to a rookie, man?
Oh, great question. I would say really honestly, Mac, it would be decide what you're going to do and then decide to be there. A lot of times people ask me, how can I get where you are, or how can I do what you've done, or how can I be successful? And my question to them is, how are you going to be there? If you're going to treat this as a hobby and not a career, whatever field it is, then you're going to get hobby results. But if you look at it for the long term, if you're going to be here 5 years from now, you're going to have an opportunity to do business with people that just want to make sure you're going to still be around in a year and a half or 2 years. And, you have to look at it and ask yourself, is this what I'm doing right now a marriage, or am I just living together? That's really it. So my point would be to ask the question. Ask the question, how long am I willing to commit to see this thing through?
I absolutely love that. And are we getting married, or do I just live together, folks? That's knowledge right there. You got to pay attention to what's being said here today. And look, I know we're going to get into your journey, and we're going to talk a lot about that. And I wish I had 2 hours to pick your brain here, but we only got 30 minutes. So unfortunately, we have to move kind of fast. But folks, if you get a chance, reach out to John. Now you're going to get bombarded with emails, right? Reach out to John, because this guy has so much to inspiration to drop to you. I want to know, though, I'm fascinated by how people like you what your early years are like. What was a childhood like? Did you have an entrepreneurial spirit or a sales spirit from early on? What was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I actually did. Two things maybe that really shaped my early years. One was that I played sports, and I didn't want to just be on the team. I wanted to be as good as I could. So I practiced, and that taught me the value of practice. That practice doesn't make perfect; it just makes permanent. And when you make it permanent, you got that competitive fire when you play. And that's what happened to me. I just wanted to compete. The second thing was my parents, my dad got into network marketing early on in a company, and it was a vitamin company called Shackley. And he told me one summer, he's like, and this will tell you how old I am. He's like, if you sell $1,000 worth of Shackley this summer door to door, I'll buy you a moped. And I was all about that at eighth grade. So every day I had my little order book and my little samples and everything, and I'd go door to door, and I ended up capturing that goal. And for the next 3 years, I drove around on a moped anytime I wanted, because he honored the commitment and taught me that when you work hard, whatever reward's out there, that reward can be achieved if you're willing to do what other people aren't willing to do at the same time. So.
Beautiful, man. I would love to see you on a moped. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, listen, you're over at Heartland Payment Systems. I mean, you've been in the industry. How long have you been in the merchant service industry now?
I'm 19 and a half years.
So, I mean, obviously, you're talking about 2 decades in a space. You've seen a lot of changes. A lot of things have obviously progressed over the years. How did you even get into the merchant service business 20 years ago?
Well, oddly enough, I was on a staff position at a church, and they were paying me a lot of money to do things I wasn't really that good at and really didn't enjoy. And there was a cap on it, and I was fascinated by business, and I know that I like to meet people, so I resigned. And I opened up the paper, and it was the first ad I responded to was a merchant services opportunity where I was living at the time, which was Oklahoma City. And I didn't know if I was good in sales. I mean, I'd had that experience selling, some nutritional products, but I didn't know if I was good in sales. So I did know I like to meet people and build relationships. And I figured, well, where can I do that without having, the burden of reporting to a 9-to-5 job? And so I went on the interview and I took the job, and 19 and a half years later, some people call me a freak for doing it, but I'm still doing it. I'm loving every minute of it.
What was that first year like in payments for you? Because, I mean, the payments industry, for people who are coming into the payments industry today, it looks totally different, right, than it did then. What was that first year like?
Oh, absolutely.
John?
Well, it was a lot less complicated as it is now. There was a lot less it was pretty cut and dry. You built relationships. You did analysis on what they're, as a service, what they were paying their current provider. There's a lot of leasing of equipment and things of that nature that were encouraged. And so the first year for me was discovering more about myself than it was, which is back to what I said to rookies. It's, I didn't know how much of fear of rejection I had. I didn't know how absolutely petrified I was to ask for an order. I didn't know those things, but as soon as my livelihood was on the line, I discovered I was either going to have to ask for the order or, start working at Chick-fil-A. And if you're listening and working at Chick-fil-A, that's fine. I'm just saying it wasn't for me.
Absolutely. No, I'm with you. I think about that myself. What if I had to, I'm running my own business and doing my own thing. I always wonder, what if it all just stopped and I had to go get a regular job, right? So let me ask you kind of to just expand on that a little bit. As far as your success journey, what has that been like, and what drove you to excel? I mean, because you have excelled. I mean, look, I have been around the industry that you're in myself for a long time, and I watched thousands of people come and go, right? For every one that actually succeeds at your level, there's probably 5,000 that failed. So, what has it been like? What drove you to excel like that?
Really, Mac, it was the fact that there was an opportunity to excel. Number one, I didn't know that I was going to be as successful as I've been privileged to be. But I knew that if it, that there was an opportunity to excel, and when you have those opportunities, you want to capitalize on them. And there was no reason why I shouldn't, frankly. I mean, I was a happy kid. I had a good childhood. I didn't have a lot of bad experiences in my life. I mean, a lot of the things that I would have to overcome. I was kind of plain vanilla. I didn't have any dramatic story. But as I looked at the opportunity, it was a growing industry, and I thought, what if, everything hinges in life on the if, right? If I had done this, if I had talked to this person. And for me, I just used to ask myself the question, what if I really pushed myself, and what would it be like? And so I just went off to that, kind of like a video game. I just wanted to see how many levels I could get to, And that's kind of what started. And then once I tasted success and relationships were formed, then they spawned and led to other relationships. And so here I am 19 years later. And I guess maybe I'll give you one other thing. I know we got to go, but I'll say this. I had a conversation with a guy in my second year. Was a business owner. He was a manager of a restaurant. We were sitting there, and he was getting ready to sign on with our company. And, he just looked exhausted. And I asked him, I said, man, you look wiped out. He said, well, I'm working 80 hours a week. He said, but, I'm making $50,000 a year, and where can you go and do that? And I'm sitting across from him making $150,000 a year and not really exhausted. And it's kind of stories like that where I just feel fortunate to find myself in this spot, frankly.
Folks, listen to that real quick. Everything in life hinges on the what if and capitalize on the opportunity. See, I love that, man. I mean, you're always so inspirational. The reality that most people don't think about is opportunity really truly is everywhere if you're really paying attention and look for it, and it comes and goes, but it's all boils down to execution, doesn't it? Let me ask you, in your early years and as you were coming up, did you have any significant mentors that helped you or guided you along the way?
Yeah, I did. I mean, guys in the industry, one of my best friends, him, TJ Kerr, Vice President at Heartland. He hired me basically and led me all the way along and taught me. Obviously you, I mean, we talk often and your growth and for people who don't listen, this is one smart dude on, hosting the show, and he's taught me a lot. And, but here's the thing, everybody has mentors in life. They may not even know they're mentors. And really everybody has mentors, and they're either good mentors or they're bad mentors, but they're mentors. And so, I think back, and I read a book by Darren Hardy called The Compound Effect that had a significant impact on me. My parents were evangelical parents, and so I was exposed to the wisdom of the Bible. I've met some great business people who have befriended me and taught me a lot. So, I don't know that I would say there was one person I sat down with every week and asked them to evaluate my life, as much as I just kind of picked and I tried to remain teachable. I tried to be open to what people say and then try to see what the transferable principle was and apply it to my own life.
Try to remain teachable. I love that. That is going out on a quote card today by John Davis. Try to remain teachable. So, that's great stuff. Let me follow that up with this. And we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I want you to just kind of expand on a little bit. When it comes to your success, is there one thing that you can point to, or maybe two things that you can point to, why you've been so successful, why so many others haven't?
Well, in practical terms, one is I'm just fascinated by people. I'm fascinated by the people that every day get up, they walk out of their house, they drive to their business, they pull the open sign on. They're some of the most courageous people I know.
Amen,
and so
brother.
that fascination is such a cool thing to me that I just get I just get into their story. And I think people appreciate that. And because I generally am interested, I find it fascinating asking the question, how did you start this? And, what's it like? And you get to know people, and they feel like they're being known at the same time. So that's one. I think the second one is just follow-up. it amazes me how many people get an opportunity, but because it doesn't happen as instantly as they think their life should happen, they don't follow back up with it. And sometimes I've discovered, Mac, honestly, the business you really want, whatever it is you do, whether it's merchant services, it's digital marketing, it's, network marketing, whatever it is, the business you want, the key is in the follow-up. It's really the big FU in life, follow up.
Absolutely. Patience, right? It seems like today we've become a society almost of demanding instant gratification. You got 24-year-olds and look, I don't bag on the millennials. In fact, I'm at the tail end of the millennials. I love millennials, and I think there's a lot of highly, highly productive millennials out there. But you see a lot of people, they want to drop the next, Facebook in 30 seconds and go public next year, and you ask them what their goals are, and it's to be a billionaire by the time they're 25, and they don't realize that patience is just such a key factor. So let me follow that question up. So we look at the journey you've been through. What is the journey? Where does it go from here? What's next steps? 19 years in the industry. What's next?
Well, what's next is in 21 minutes when I end the show, I'm walking to write a deal. So that's what's next.
Yeah, baby, I love it.
I don't mean it arrogantly. What I mean is, I'm not into 5-year goals. I'm into 2-week projects and 6-month plans because everything changes so quickly now. And so what I say next is I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing. I'm not going to try to find something new. I'm not easily distracted. And I find that, when you say what's next, it's whatever's out there. I'm going to meet some cool people today. I'm going to meet some cool people tomorrow. I'm going to, hang out with my kids. My son starts spring football next week. But I'm just going to be doing the same thing. It's like a long obedience in the same direction. Because that's one of the secrets is, pick your lane and stay in it till it's obvious you got to change lanes. I'm going to retire doing this. And I'm not looking for another job. I might become a greeter at Walmart or something, but that's after when I don't need the money.
Yeah, I could just see you at the front of Walmart, be like Jeff Dunham's little guy. Get your shit and get out. You said you're not easily distracted.
That's probably true.
That's funny too, right? I love that guy. Listen, I gotta ask you this a little follow-up because you said you're not easily distracted, and that's something that in my office we work on and talk about a lot because I'm like ADD, right? I'm like that dog that knows there's a bone over there and he's going to get it and he's committed. Then he sees a butterfly and he runs off. And so distractions cost the U.S. economy. They predicted around $588 billion a year, and that's crazy. It boils down to as much as 3 to 6 working hours every single day are completely lost for an employee. How do you drown out that noise? And let me before you answer, let me tell people just so they know. Not only does John run a multi-million-dollar business, he may work for Harlan, but he runs his own business, right? And not only does he do that, he's also got a huge family. He has got a lot going on all the time. How do you drown that noise out, stay focused on the goal of killing it like you do?
I'm not sure I drown it out all the time, Big Mac. Honestly, I try to. I'm not a big Facebook dude, not a big Twitter guy. I read it, but, I've started doing some things that I don't sleep in my phone stays in a different room at night. I go to bed and my phone just goes to bed too, and I don't look at it. I don't troll those things because I recognize that, if you took off on a plane today, if I was coming to see you out on the West Coast today and I was flying my own plane, 1 degree off from the route could keep me 500 miles from where I was supposed to land. And so I think you have to ask yourself, what are those distractions, and are they worth the potential loss of revenue, income, or influence that you gain by staying focused? And then I think you just, create some folks in your life that you confess your need of staying focused. Like I said, I write down certain things just because I want to be able to have metrics. And those metrics let me know how focused I am. But I'm not sure that you're able to, I don't watch TV. I watch some sports, but I don't, I'm not up on the latest shows. I don't really know what's going on in a lot of ways. that noise is just noise, and it keeps you from being able to really hear what's important, whether it's from your kids or your spouse or from your business or from your clients. And so I don't really know how to answer it except to say I just work at it. I put that thing away when I don't need it. A phone, a Facebook, all the social media, great servant, terrible master. And if you're mastered by it, you got to get it back in the right way and let it serve you, but don't let it master you, because then it's never going to lead you anywhere, in my opinion.
Nice. So here's a little one for you, and it's a little personal, but I want to know, what is the biggest challenge that John Davis faces personally? Moving forward in the future, what's your biggest challenge?
Personally?
Personally.
Personally, not professionally, right?
Absolutely.
That's coming up. I have a feeling. Okay.
I'm gonna hit you with the business next, but I want to know what personally. For me, it's weight. I gotta get my weight under control, right? I mean, I've gotten to become just a real fat ass. My wife cooks phenomenal. So that's my journey. That's my challenge. What's John's biggest personal challenge to excel even further than you already have in the future?
Well, honestly, if we're talking in the nubbies, right, in life, it's being truthful. I really like for people to like me, and oftentimes I'll say things that aren't true or accurate because I value their opinion in it, and it's caused hurt in life. It's caused hurt in my own life, and so I have to ask myself, the challenge is, am I living in the integrity of the moment, not only with my actions but with my words and with my silence? And sometimes when you don't say things, you kind of silently give the impression you agree with what's being said. And I think there's a way to say it politely and to say it respectfully, but, I think that's the biggest challenge for anybody in sales, is to be transparent and truthful. And if you want me to speak honestly, that's where I am. I can find myself stretching, embellishing, or straight out lying just I'm not going to let that happen in the future.
Okay, let's flip it now. What do you think? I mean, you're in the merchant service business. This is a highly competitive industry. It is not like anything else that a lot of people could even fathom, And so what is the biggest challenge for the future for you in your industry? And, honestly, how do you see yourself being able to continue to bust out, multi-million and even hundreds of millions of dollars worth of business? What's going to stop you? What could stop you?
I think that, the biggest challenge is staying relevant. I'm 51 years old. My kids, they come hardwired for all the things that are in the new technology. It seems like, my son, beat me last night in football, or 49-0. I didn't know how to work the controls. But I think that
I don't know if I brag about that one, big guy.
It's a challenge, right? Usually a challenge isn't something you brag about. Right?
Yeah.
I think, but staying relevant, it means being, again, back to being teachable and being willing to learn and being willing to immerse yourself in new technology to understand it and how it impacts where you and your slice of business is. And that's a challenge because it's always changing. And just about the time you master it, it's changed a little bit. So that's a challenge / frustration that I try to tackle as best I can. And I see it 5 years from now being, I just ask myself, where was I 5 years ago and what's different now? And I think, well, if it's this different from 5 years ago, how different it's going to be from 5 years from now? And so that's not a fear, but a challenge that I'm willing to face. It's just one I think is coming.
So let me ask you this. In 19 years in the industry, you've had to face some setbacks, right? Have you ever just totally lost it? Have you ever just totally hit, not really, been killing it and during that time? And how did you make a comeback? Because obviously, if that's ever happened to you, you've made that comeback, right? You're killing it right now. So have you ever had that happen to you?
Yeah. Totally lost, maybe not be the right word, but I think nobody goes undefeated in life, right? If you think you're going to go undefeated in life, then you're just not going to do anything significant. You're not going to do anything challenging, because life, and part of success is the failure along the way. And so there have been a couple times where I found myself believing, getting in my own head about certain things, taking on personal offenses, because I'm a commission-only guy. And so, my mind can be like a bad part of the city, and then sometimes I go in there alone, and that's not a good decision. And so what I had to do was I had to talk it out, and I had to go to what I consider the worst scenario and get okay with it and then start from there. So I'll give you a perfect example. My daughter had a big math test yesterday, and she said, I don't know if I'm going to take it. I said, well, you have to take it. She said, well, I don't know if I'm ready. I said, here's the deal. What's the worst thing that could happen? She said, I would fail it. And I said, what's the best thing that you could happen? She said, I would get 100. I said, okay, then I guess you got to get okay with what the worst thing is, right? And she said,
Absolutely.
yeah. I said, well, I think a lot of times we let fear just keep us and paralyze us when we just got to be okay. What's the worst thing that could happen out of this? Get okay with it, and then roll the dice and keep moving. So what I did is I just started banging out phone calls and pulling doors and building relationships. And you were around at some of those times. There were some times where I was really dragging, but at the end of the day, you got to get out of your own head and let somebody else, like a drone, get up on your life and look over and say what's going on, and then help you see it. You need friends. You need people that are encouraging. But they got to help you get out of that bad part of the city, which is generally your mind when you're in sales.
Man, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I know sometimes just sharing, the personal things, on the air for everyone to hear, it's sometimes not very comfortable. So with this show, I want to do what's called a final thoughts. I have 3 questions that I want to ask you. 2 of them are for, to help people in the audience. One of them is just 100% for me. It's my show, so I can ask what I want.
That's right.
So here you go. Imagine and picture this. You got nothing. You're flat broke. Okay, you have no connections. This is what we hear, right? I don't know anybody. I don't have any money. I have 27 cents in the bank account, but I got heart. I got passion, right? What do I do? So you're flat broke, no connections, no nothing. What does John Davis do right now today if he's in that situation? It doesn't work for the company he works for. He's just flat, starting fresh.
I think it goes back to the first thing you asked me. What do you want to do? Like, I'll just say it. When you say that, you say, I'm flat broke, I got no connections, but I got heart and passion. I'm like, no, you don't. These people with heart and passion have connections. You mean to tell me there's nobody that knows your name in life? There's nobody that knows what you do or what you want to do? There's not a person in the world. You've got connections. You just got to see how those connections, how you can use what you do to help those people, and therefore when they see the value of who you are and what you do, that's where I would start. It's like, it's not the question is what can you do for me? The question better is how can I serve you? How can I help you? That's where I would start. Go find somebody to help in what you do, and then once you have helped them, and the help is not defined by you, it's defined by them. When they say you've really helped me, then you go and ask if they can find some people that would need your help as well. And if you're flat broke, get a part-time job and live as if, you're flat broke until you can afford a little bit more and live within your means. A perfect example, Mac, last night. I get a phone call at 8 o'clock. There's a restaurant in the town I live that has been taken over, change of ownership, and they can't process cards. And they got my name from a friend who I had helped. And so at 8 o'clock last night, when most people are watching whatever's on TV, Fox, CNBC, Motley Money, whatever, I get in my car, I drive out there, I write them up. It's instant approval because it's a restaurant. I'm at their store at 9 o'clock this morning, install their terminal, and guess what? She gives me a pizza at 9 in the morning. I didn't need it, but I ate it. And 3 referrals. 3 family members that couldn't believe I would come out at 8 o'clock at night and get them taken care of and be back at 9 in the morning. And I have an appointment with one of them tomorrow on Good Friday.
I love it. We have about 30 seconds left. Let me ask you real quick. Stance on college for most people, yes or no?
Yes. Either
favorite
technical
sports team?
college and or favorite sports team, Michigan Wolverines or the Detroit Tigers, professional Detroit Tigers, football and college, Michigan Wolverines. I'm out.
I love
Had a great time. Thank you, bro.
Thank you, John, so much, man, for joining. Listen, you guys have been listening to Knockouts, Conversations with Power Players. I'm so glad to have John Davis on the air with us today. Certainly a power player. If you're in the payment processing business and if you've been around at any time, you know who John Davis is. A couple takeaways I want you guys to remember, and I want to quote him. Practice doesn't make perfect, it makes permanent. So keep hustling, keep going, don't give up. Have patience, folks. Nothing great is ever going to happen overnight. It's just not how it works. You have to work at it and be patient. Reach out to people. There's always somebody out there that's willing to help you, I promise. Hell, email me, Mac at the Badass Closer. I'll do my best to help you. Again, thank you all so much for listening to our very first episode. Thanks again to John Davis, one of my closest best friends, for being my very first guest. Super honored for anyone who listens. Love y'all. Love all salespeople. Have a phenomenal day. Be awesome. Get your ass out there and go sell something. Knockout. Real conversations,